I am by no means a camera expert, so when Insta360 sent me some ND filters to try out, my first thought was like, what am I going to do with these things? So I did a little bit of research, and the prevailing theme seemed to be that filters are sunglasses for your camera. So I thought, cool, I'll put them on my X5, try them all out in automatic mode. My original thought was, wow, these don't work at all, when in reality it was me that didn't work at all. Well, more on that later. But first, let's take a look and see what actually comes in the box. Here's typical packaging for your filter. You open it up from the bottom, not the top, and inside you will find a guide. You get a cleaning cloth, which you need, and the case itself. It's really sturdy, well built. You open it up and voila, there are the filters and me. The filters come out just by kind of pinching them and opening up like this. When you're ready to install this onto your camera itself, make sure you use your cloth and clean the lens off really well, because you know if you've ever used a lens guard and this isn't cleaned off well, then you're going to have all sorts of lighting problems and smudges and whatnot. Same thing holds true with the filters. Now you just take the filter out, put it on about the 4 o'clock position, then twist it down to the 6 o'clock position. You'll feel a little click, and then it's in place. It's good to go. Be sure you wipe this off as well. And you'll do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to take it off and put it back in the case. Really nice. Now the one catch with the cases is that it doesn't say anywhere on the case which filter it is. Even on the filter itself, it doesn't tell you which filter it is. There's some little fine print right here, but that doesn't tell you what it is, and even if it did, it's too small to make a difference when you're outside. So what I wound up doing is just putting the filter, which filter it is, on a piece of tape. I did it for the 16, I did it for the 32, I'll do it for the 64 as well. But other than that, the casing and packaging is really solid. Now that we're done with the unboxing, here are some tests that I think do a decent job showing how the filters work. Now, keep in mind, I probably at this point know enough to be dangerous, but I think I'm kind of getting the hang of it. Well, it's really sunny out, so it's a perfect day to kind of demo how these filters work. When you start using your camera and you have it on automatic mode, the camera's doing all that it can to limit the amount of light that's hitting the lens. Now, when you do that, you're kind of restricted to what the camera wants to create. So some of the stuff might be a little too sharp. Some of the motion capture that you get might not be as cinematic as you want. But hey, you know, if you're not a camera expert, then let the automatic settings take over. Now, if you want to do manual settings, a lot of times what you do is there's this rule of 180-degree rule. I don't know where they come up with these names. It's basically you want your shutter speed to be double your frame rate. Right now I have it set at 5.6K 30 frames per second, so my shutter speed should be 1/60. The 60 is the doubled number. So let's change to manual settings with 1/60 so I can get some more cinematic appearances. Okay, here we are at 1/60. The computer on the camera is not doing any work to control the light, so we get this completely blown out image that just doesn't work at all. Because I have the shutter speed set to 1/60, and it's not going to change because it's in manual mode. So how do I use manual mode and manage this blown out image? Well, that's where the filters come into play. So let's start putting the filters on and see how this changes. Okay, this is the ND16 filter. So we're starting to cut down on the amount of light. Generally with the ND16s, you want to use it when it's maybe a little overcast or maybe a little cloudy, because even if it's overcast and cloudy, you're still going to get blown out if you're on manual settings at 1/60, but it's super bright today, so the ND16 might still be letting a little bit too much light in, so let's switch to the ND32. So now it's probably starting to look pretty good. I think when it's super sunny like this, it's recommended to use the ND32 or the ND64 filter on these cameras. One thing to remember is anytime you put on a filter, it's like next to impossible to put it on without getting your fingerprints on it. So wipe the filters down really good, the whole dome, both sides, before you start shooting, or else you might get smudges or lens flares or something like that, and those are kind of annoying, at least to me anyway. Alright, let's try the ND64 and see what the difference is. So here's the ND64. It's the strongest filter of all three and will be letting the least amount of light through. One thing you want to make sure when you're using these filters is make sure your firmware on your camera is up to date. It's kind of cool because when you put the filter on, the camera asks you, well, which one are you using? And then you can pick and choose to match the ones you're actually using, and I guess there's something going on in the background that'll help with the computer inside the camera to give you the best image possible. So to sum it up, I think ND16 filters are good for cloudy or overcast days. I would say ND32 filters are a good filter for just your typical sunny day. ND64s might be good for where the contrast is really high, like maybe if you're snow skiing or out on the ocean. But I think ND32 is a good middle of the road filter. One thing that I kept hearing and reading was that filters allow you to have more cinematic shots and more natural motion blur. Now, to me, shooting in automatic mode 99.9% of the time, those didn't really mean much to me. But I like to ride and film on my bike, so I thought, well, I'll take a filter out, try it out, and see what happens. Okay, this first comparison shows automatic versus the ND32 filter. You can see that the colors in general are pretty decent. I would say the ND32 greens are just a little softer. The skies, to me, are a toss-up. I think in general the automatic does a pretty decent job color-wise, but I think I've seen lots of examples where the color might be just a little too sharp. In this example, we're going to look at what motion blur really means and what it looks like. So I'm riding down this hill and look at the metal grate and the metal fence, and it pauses here, and you can really see what the motion blur looks like. The automatic, there's no blur at all. The ND32, that's what motion blur is. That's what they're talking about. So now the next question is, would I have bought these if Insta360 didn't send them to me? My initial reaction is probably not, because I just didn't see the point. I wasn't a fancy photographer. I just like to turn my camera on and go. The filters just seemed like something extra that would slow me down, and I was happy with the automatic results. But after trying these, it kind of made me want to dabble in the manual settings a little bit more than I ever have before. It was actually pretty fun to see the results and the differences. Now, would I buy all three? Definitely not. I would buy the ND32 if you're interested in trying these things out. Don't bother with the other two unless you have some sort of epiphany or you really feel like these ND filters are cool and this is for you, because they're $60 a piece, which is kind of expensive. So start with the 32, and if you really like what you see and you want to expand your horizons, go ahead. But that's kind of up to you. If it was up to me, I'd stick with the 32 and I'd be happy with that. Now, the final thing that I think are pretty cool about these things is they remind me of an astronaut helmet visor, so that's kind of fun to think about. So on that note, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.